Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, I move that we transfer from the calendar for ordinary business to the calendar for special orders Committee Report number 57 on Senate Bill number 2019. This is the bill on Caregivers Welfare Act. So move, Mr. President.
There being no objection to the motion, motion is approved.
Mr.
Secretary,
President,
please
I
decide
move
the
that we consider Senate Bill number 2019 under Committee Report number 57. So move, Mr. President.
There being no objection to the motion, motion is approved. The Secretary may proceed to read the title.
An act instituting policies for the protection and welfare of caregivers and the practice of their profession.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, to sponsor the measure, may we recognize the chairperson of the Committees on Labor, Employment, and Human Resources Development, Senator Jinggoy Estrada, to deliver the sponsorship speech. So moved, Mr. President.
Our distinguished colleague, Senator Jinggoy Estrada, is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. President. I am honored to sponsor Senate Bill number 2019, entitled An Act Instituting Policies for the Protection and Welfare of Caregivers and the Practice of Their Profession under Committee Report number 57. This substitute bill is a consolidation of bills filed by Senators Legarda, Angara, Tolentino, Revilla, and yours truly, taking into consideration House Bill number 227. Your Committee on Labor, Employment and Human Resource Development conducted the committee hearing December 12 and the technical working group meeting last February 22 and another consultative meeting last March 2. We have worked closely with the DOLE through the Bureau of Local Employment, the Bureau of Working Conditions, the Technical Education, Skills and Development Authority, TESDA, along with the Department of Migrant Workers. We have also coordinated with various organizations of caregivers such as Caregiver of the Philippines Association Incorporated and the Philippine Caregivers Association's Alliance of Health Workers, a private employment agency, the EEDEDC Elderly Care Services, and the Employers Confederation of the Philippines, the Philippine Nurses Association, along with other stakeholders in crafting a finer and better version of this proposed measure. With the passage of our Caregivers Welfare Act, we intend to cover all certified caregivers employed in private homes, nursing care facilities, other residential settings, and those employed by private employment agencies. Number two, to provide an inclusive and official definition as to who a caregiver is, as well as their duties and responsibilities. Number three, to formalize the working arrangement between the caregivers and employers by mandating an authorized contract, which shall include, among others, duties and responsibilities of the caregiver, period of employment, work arrangement, and compensation. Number four, to provide that the minimum hours of work of a caregiver is 8 hours and any work rendered in excess of this will be paid as overtime. This is in compliance with the basic standards set forth in the Labor Code of the Philippines. This is also to address the current and actual practice where caregivers are working for a minimum of 12 hours. At present, the caregiver's salary is determined by the severity of the client's case. For ambulatory and ordinary cases, yun po nakakalakad naman ng pasyente, ang actual rate po ng ating caregiver ay hindi bababa sa 800 piso para sa 12 oras na trabaho. Number five, to grant 13-month pay to our caregivers who have rendered minimum of 1 month service. Number six, to entitle caregivers who have rendered a minimum of 1 year service with service incentive leave of at least 5 days with pay. Number seven, to entitle our caregivers to the benefits of SSS, PhilHealth, and Pag-ibig. Number eight, to protect our caregivers hired through private employment agencies by defining the responsibilities of these agencies. And number nine, to establish an official registry of Filipino caregivers. Number 10, and finally, to impose penalties for the issuance of fake certificate, clearance, or any other document for purposes of fulfilling the requirements under this bill. Mr. President, according to the record of TESDA, from 2017 up to February 28, 2023, there are 145,342 Filipinos certified in caregiving. Ito lang po ang yung mga caregivers na may newly issued national certificate. Two, wala pa po sa datos na ito yung mga licensed health care professionals na nagtatrabaho bilang caregivers. From this, we can infer that we have more than 100,000 Filipino families dependent on the income derived from the practice and profession of caregiving. To emphasize the importance of this measure, it will be noteworthy to look at the realities of a global aging population according to the World Health Organization. Number one, all countries face major challenges to ensure that their health and social systems are ready to make the most of this demographic shift. Number two, by the year 2050, 80% of older people will be living in low and middle income countries at makikinabang po ang Pilipinas dito. Number three, the pace of population aging is much faster than in the past. Number four, in 2020, the number of people aged 60 years and older outnumbered children younger than 5 years. Number 5, between 2015 and 2050, the proportion of the world's population over 60 years will nearly double from 12% to 22%. Dito po sa atin, according to the PSA Census of Population and Housing conducted 2020, senior citizens constitute 8.5% of the household population, and that there are 9.22 million Filipinos ages 60 years and above. Kasama na po ko rito. We are already aware that there has been a constant demand for Filipino caregivers abroad. Dahil mahusay, magalang, mapagmahal at may malasakit ng alagang Pinoy, maraming bansa ang mas pinaboran ng mga Pinoy caregivers, gaya ng preference nila sa mga Pinoy nurses. May mga Filipino nurses na nga rin po tayo na nagka-caregiving. We must therefore endeavor to institute policies in the practice of caregiving whose standards of professional service is excellent and globally competitive. As pointed out, the industry of caregiving has already emerged as a viable option for Filipinos, not only for migrant workers, but for local workers as well. The Philippines is already positioning itself as a top destination hub for retiring foreigners. Because of lower costs of living in the Philippines and with English as our secondary language, along with other factors, we might be competing against foreign retirees transferring residence here. In the not-so-distant future, we might find ourselves with a shortage of caregivers to take care of our children, our elders, and our loved ones with special needs. As we recognize and act on the need to protect the rights of our caregivers towards decent employment and income, we also institutionalize a policy protecting them against abuse, harassment, violence, and economic exploitation. We need to create a favorable working environment conducive and supportive to the welfare and interests of our caregivers. We are trying to establish an alternative choice for our caregivers where they are not forced to work overseas, endure the pain of being away from their families and loved ones, and take the many risks of working and living abroad. With the passage of this Caregivers Welfare Act, we give due recognition to the important role of our caregivers in national development. Panahon na po upang alagaan natin ang ating mga tagapagpalalaga at maprotektahan ang sektor ng ating mga caregivers. Madam President, dear colleagues, I enjoy all your help and support in passing our Caregivers Welfare Act this 19th Congress. Thank you very much, Madam President.
Thank you very much, Senator Estrada. Majority.
Mr. President, the co-sponsorship speech of Senator Angara, he requested me that it